Stay tuned for another episode of the Coming Soon podcast with sPidA.
Here we go. Hello, everybody. sPidA here, Coming Soon podcast. Once again, San Antonio, Texas, with my guest.
Hey, how's it going, man?
I'm doing pretty good, bro.
Oh yeah.
I think I have an echo. Hold on, let me get off this real quick. But of course, man, had a little hiccup the other day, bro. There we go. Should be ready to go.
Yep,
Sorry
there you
about
go. Oh, you're fine, man. It happens all the time.
that.
Yeah.
Man, but of course, bro. I mean, man, I wouldn't know where to start because you're very much involved with a lot of things, projects, man. I mean, how did everything? Let me go that route. When did everything start for you when it comes to horror, bro?
Oh shit, man. So like my mom was a special effects artist for indie film before I was born. Like small time indie horror. Like we're talking, she started doing this in the 70s, right? Like here in Ohio.
Oh,
So
damn.
when I came along, she just had this big cancer scare. She'd survived it, got pregnant with me like during treatments, during radiation treatments. And when I was about 2, she got back into it and started doing makeup again. So I just kind of I went to film shoots with her, because my dad was gone a lot. He worked a couple different jobs, and Andy was a salesman, so he was gone all the time. So like, other than
Traveling
my
around.
grandma, there was no one to watch us kids. So we would just go and on the sets, and we learned from a young age to keep our mouth shut, keep our hands to ourselves, and enjoy art. And we got to meet a lot of the people she did the makeup for. We got to watch the whole processes, like how bodies got made, like. So we just kind of learned really young that like all the horrifying and scary things out there was mostly just this amazing art that people like, our mom took, hours, days, weeks to make. So we had this like built-in appreciation pretty much for it from then.
Man, and you know what though? And I was gonna say, when it comes to siblings, how many are there? How many
I
brothers?
have an older sister, and my brother passed just about 5 years ago. So we're
Oh,
down to two now, but
no, well, the reason I'm asking is out of the three of you guys. I mean, did everybody get involved when it comes to art?
no, my sister kind of went a different way. She became a lot more like my mom in other ways. She's got 3 kids of her own. She's had a couple different careers, like, so she kinda went a different route. My brother was very much a big into horror and haunt acting like I was, then got married and had kids, went into the military, and then when he came out of the military, he got back into music and horror with me before he passed. I'm
Oh,
the only one that's just never sort of stopped with it and all kinds of different industries, but still doing horror.
no, yeah, because like earlier we were talking a bit, man, and I mean, being a professional haunt actor, man. I mean, how did that go about? I mean, was it something that you were like, man, I want to scare people and jump into it, or how did that go about?
Yeah, honestly, like, this is actually my 30th year in the haunted attraction industry, like,
Bro.
this summer officially. So it was one of those things where again, I was really into the art behind everything. I had already learned how to make my first severed head, like, realistically when I was 9. And that summer I was 12, 'cause my birthday's in September, so, like, that summer was like, "Oh, well, you have to be 13 to do all these fucking things." I'm like, "Well, can you just hire me anyway? And then I'll be 13 when we get started." And I conned a local haunt into agreeing to that, but also because my brother and sister were of age already and they wanted to come, and people knew who my mom was, and they knew that she also wanted to be there to help out with, like, making things and doing stuff as well. So I was sort of like part of the package deal, but I was the
Yeah.
one that, like, probably was the most successful with it. Like, my first year I did Michael Myers, and it was a haunted trail, and we had a lot of security paths and cut throughs. So I could see the same group because I was young and quick enough, and I was huge. I could see the same group 7 people, 7 different times, every group that went through. So you would just see Michael standing there at one point in time. Then I'd be in a different scene doing something different when you'd see me the next time. And I would have to run and keep track of what groups were there with the radio. So I would
Yeah.
know how far I had to run. I probably ran, I'd say ultimately a couple miles every single night that. And I would show up in costume ready to go. The only people that knew what I looked like were the owners. No one I acted with, no one there knew what I looked like. Because I would have my mom drop me off a quarter mile away and walk in. And then when her and my brother and sister left for the night, I would walk again and meet them farther down the road and they'd pick me up. So like it was a big mystery the first couple years because I'm very neurodivergent and being social back then was really hard for me. And that's kind of how I got around the social aspect, but I also, creeping people out even more. So
No, no, for sure, and of course you have to keep that hiding, right? I mean, it's just like a wrestler with a mask, bro. You got to keep your identity, so that's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, and I ended up doing that for years too. I was a professional wrestler and a masked horror character.
Hey, bro, man, dude, well, what haven't you done? Let me go that route, man, because it seems like you've dabbed in a little bit of everything. I mean, when it came to wrestling, how did that happen?
Man, big wrestling fan. Growing up in like the early '80s, my dad was a wrestling guy, and he really loved like the sport. I got super into it. I learned that a lot of people that I haunted with were getting into wrestling because if you don't know, the haunted attraction industry and the wrestling industry share a lot of things. And one of the main things is actual wrestlers. I've never worked at a haunt that had like less than two or three retired or current wrestlers in it, like ever. So I can't explain why. It's just one of those things, and they sort of got me into it. And again, I was a bigger guy. I was very athletic back in the day, and it seemed like a natural fit. I started as like a pallbearer type manager for a horror wrestler, and that was about to retire from the local scene. And I moved up and became this character called the Machine that just went in, did crazy stuff. I retired that, went into a bigger federation, and became the Raving Lunatic. I came in as a manager again, strapped to a dolly in a straitjacket and a Hannibal Lecter mask until the storyline broke me out of it, and I had to attack the tag team that I was managing. And then I held the hardcore championship back in the day for 18 months, which is still a record
Nice,
in this
bro.
area, like many decades later.
Wow, damn, dude. Okay, and I mean, of course, when you say retired, I mean that's pretty much it, right? You went ahead and stopped doing that.
Yeah, it was forced medical retirement actually, because I was in a match with someone that thought it was his time to have the belt. And you guys, I'm not giving any secrets away here, but wrestling, it's not fake. Like everything hurts and everything is real, but the planning, what's gonna happen, the storylines, that stuff is generated by people in the background coming up with
Oh
really
yeah.
cool ideas and putting on a show. But a guy decided it was his time to get the belt and he was gonna pull a quick one and say screw everybody. So it was a giant ladder match. It was a fireman's ladder, actually. So it's like when those
Damn.
tall ones in the middle of a junkyard with a crane suspending the belt. And I grabbed the belt. Last time I ever got to touch it, I grabbed it. I won the match. But he looked up to me. He looked up at me, knowing that there was nothing I could do, and he shoved the ladder the wrong way. I
Dude.
came down from like the inside of my wrist all the way up to my armpit was ripped and shredded on both sides by barbed wire ropes. I came down and on the concrete and my spine did an accordion thing. I didn't walk for I think 13, 14 months. And they said I never would walk again. But I walk now. I run around. After that, I did my own stunts in film. I mean, so like I'm broken for the rest of my life from 19 on, pretty much. But that was it was a forced retirement. I couldn't like watch wrestling or do indie stuff like for a while because like the depression like really hits you when you're watching everybody do something that you want to be doing. And so I from there I transitioned into music and I toured for a decade as a frontman for a band, doing some horror stuff, but mostly like a metal grunge band for a while. And that's kind of how I got over the depression of you can't wrestle anymore, but you can still perform. And of course, haunts. I never
Yeah.
stopped performing at that.
And I was gonna say, man, because of course, I mean, I keep bringing this up in pretty much every episode that I'm in, but it's when it comes to being an artist, I mean, it's a form of expression, and the fact that you're able to transition and keep going and keep performing and keep entertaining. I mean, of course, it just fills the void. It's like you said, you couldn't wrestle, so you went and did something else. But
You always find something else to do. You got to have that outlet. I mean, my health is not great now, so most of the year when I'm not doing the haunt acting, I'm a writer. I've been releasing like novels and short stories for a couple years. I was part of the creepy pasta movement when it was getting going. I've done a lot of different stuff like that because on the days where I can't walk that great or not with not at least without a cane or something, like I can write though. I can write in podcasts and I can do those things while I'm sitting in my chair, so I can still interact even on the days that I can't get out in front of people.
no, you see, and that's where it kind of comes in handy. I mean, I notice when it comes to podcasting, because even now more so, like a lot of the actors that are doing conventions, they're getting into podcasting. And
Yeah.
I mean, of course, when they're out there traveling, they can't do it. But I mean, they go home and they got nothing to do, so they just jump on but I've noticed it when it first started, and now I haven't noticed it as much, but because it's still a lot of work, bro. I mean, having to coordinate and schedule and get everybody aligned. I mean, of course, we had a little hiccup last last week with that, but yeah, it's just one of those things where I mean, I'm like, oh yeah, it's easy, but it's like, man, it's frustrating. It can be a little much at times. But like everything else that we do, I'm sure, is we do it because we want to. We enjoy it, we like it, and just keep doing it. Like you said, I mean, the day I can't physically move or keep doing or do as much, and yeah, man, I would love to just be able to sit down and to keep talking to people. You
Yeah,
know?
you find ways, man. Like in Jurassic Park, they say life finds a way. That's
Yeah.
the same thing with your passion, man. Your passion will always find a way. The hard part is switching that. It's flipping that switch in your brain that says, "Well, I can only be appeased if I'm in front of people." Well, you
Yeah.
can still be in front of people. You're just on a camera now.
Yeah.
Like you're not, like there's tricks you got to do to your head to reprogram what you enjoy and what fulfills that enjoyment. And once you figure that out about yourself and you find the next thing, then you have to train yourself mentally and kind of rebuild yourself a little bit
Yeah.
to find that same level of enjoyment because you realize eventually that, yeah, I don't know why I had to train myself for that because now I've been doing it for X amount of time and it fulfilled me right away. I just mentally couldn't allow it to until I processed.
No, you see, and then one of the things too, when it comes to podcasting, because of course, I mean, you've been involved with a lot of when it comes to film, when it comes to writing.
Yeah.
So, where do your ideas come from? Because of course, I mean, you got to do one. You can't. I don't want to say you can't carry it over because you can, but are you constantly like getting ideas and just, you know what I mean, just putting stuff to work?
Dude, I probably have over 50 different Google Docs that are just unfinished things or just like little ideas where I'm like, here's the cool example. Yesterday, I was on YouTube. My youngest daughter and her my soon to be son-in-law are a big fan of the YouTuber Mr. Beast. They got me into him years ago. And I realized, man, it's been like 2 years since I've seen any Mr. Beast videos. I started sitting down and just catching up on Mr. Beast, and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. And I got this random idea about how if you've got a guy like Mr. Beast out there in the YouTube world doing all these good things for people, then where's all the negative energy going? Because there's got to be a counterbalance to that. So I came up with this character called Mr. Feast. And this whole storyline where there was this big fan of Mr. Beast who got contacted by this person called Mr. Feast and thought it was just Mr. Beast, playing a prank and like or whatever. But it turns out that Mr. Feast is where all the negativity the internet goes. And he does all the same challenges as Mr. Beast, but the underground and everybody is being murdered during the process. And then this main character finds out at the end that Mr. Feast is a different person all the time. That the title changes hands between different internet fans, but it's something the internet's not allowed to know about because that's what keeps the good side of things rolling. Like, and that was just a random idea. Man, I smoked a pre-roll and sat down for like the whole time I'm watching the Mr. Beast videos, and I'm just over here writing it in a document like, oh, he did this. That would be cool. So it's really just me hanging out. Sometimes getting cool ideas from my wife or the kids, or just friends, or looking at a haunt prop, going, man, there's a story there. What is it? And just coming up with random stuff. Like, and sometimes it's terrible stuff,
Yeah.
and that's why I have 50 unfinished documents. Because sometimes, like halfway through a project, I realize, no, I was just way too stoned, and that's actually a terrible idea. I'm gonna not finish this.
You're like, what was I thinking?
Yeah, yeah. You run across those, but you got to run them down until you get to the point where you realize, okay, yeah, I'm not adding anything new here. This is just
It ain't
it's
gonna
crap.
work, man.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, do you ever go back and run into something and you're like, oh man, I forgot about this, and then just run with it, like make it into
Yeah. That happened to me actually recently. I had this really cool idea. I'm a big theme park guy. I like going to theme parks.
yeah.
A couple of years ago, I had an idea for a really cool horse story involving urban exploration and dark ride and an amusement park that had been shut down. 'Cause there's a lot of abandoned theme parks in Ohio, like a stupid amount of them for some reason. And it's this cool idea. I started writing ideas down, actually wrote a whole little scene, and then I never titled the document. I left it just untitled in Google Docs. And I had so many untitled documents. One day I was like, what even are these? And I went through like 70 or 80 different things that were just untitled. Some of them were blank pages, just something I started and never typed in or whatever. And I ran across that and I'm like, this could be something. And I got an offer through Fraction Mind Publishing to join their More Lore from the Mythos Volume 1 because I was already in 2, but they're doing this big Kickstarter to bring 1 back, and they had an author dropped out. And the owner, Stefan, got a hold of me. He's like, dude, can you kick me a story for this? I can give you like a week or two. Can you get something? I'm like, I got
Oh,
it. So I just took that idea that I had just found like a couple days before, retrofitted it and added some mythos and finished it. And now that's coming out here in a couple weeks. So it's sometimes like, and that's the cool thing. Like I leave the files even though they're not usable because there could be like a scene or something in one of those files that could be usable, but for a different project. So you never want to throw like even bad ideas away just in case.
No, no, for sure, man. Because of course, I mean, we get those ideas for a reason. Just recently, I started doing a lot of filming. I've been filming a lot, and I've just been doing those short stories. They're not
Yeah.
up yet, but my thing is just like I'll be driving somewhere, and I still skateboard. I don't skateboard as much as I used to, but I'm always looking for locations, and I'll see a spot, and I'm like, oh man, that's skatable. But lately, like for the past few months, I've been looking at areas and not scouting, but just seeing areas that I've seen before, but I just see them differently, and I'm like thinking, man, I could definitely do something there, and a lot of them are abandoned, locations. I mean, it's just in the middle of nowhere. I'm looking to start doing a little bit more filming because of that.
Honestly, dude, like, filming is a great thing. That's a big passion of mine, and I took a break, when COVID started. I got really sick, and then you really couldn't film out anywhere during COVID, and I took, like, a really huge hiatus, and I'm just getting back to filming, this year, like, at some point. But, like, filming is also a very different medium for creativity because there's so many different jobs you've gotta do, and when you're indie and starting out, your best bet is to learn how to do them all yourself just in case you can't find people. So now
Oh
you
yeah,
can learn camera, you gotta learn editing, you gotta learn sound, music, special effects, set design. So, like, there's all these cool things you get to dig in and, like, teach yourself how to do, or, hopefully find some people that whose jobs it is to do those things that
yeah.
you can trust, but still always know how to do it yourself in case you gotta play 10 different, do 10 different things in one set. And it's one of the hardest of all the creative passions to do because of all the different hats you gotta wear, for that. But it's one of the most rewarding because when it comes at the end of the day, here's this collection of things that all came together like just the right way to make that one cool thing.
No, for sure, man. Because yeah, I mean, I keep hearing it, and seeing it just from directors and filmmakers, man. Everybody's like, man, you got to do everything. You start off learning, like you said, you kind of do have to put on different hats because one day, you might not have the light guy show up, and then there you go, but yeah, it's all experience. The fact that you're able to put it together at the end of the day, go home and enjoy it. After a couple of months, editing and all that good stuff, man. But
That's the hard part.
it's really cool, man. You see, man, and I've been shooting, and I haven't put stuff together yet, and that's kind of where the story ends, or it's gonna start, But I mean, I just
Yeah.
got different clips, and I'm just getting ready to start. The music, that's a yeah, Well, we'll see, man. I mean, I'm still learning, so I mean, I got people here locally. It's just everybody's got different schedules and doing their own thing. So of course, it's kind of hard, but
Oh, yeah.
I'm a pick at it though, man.
I mean, the cool thing about now is we live in this day and age where so much is digital. Like, you could pop in StreamYard and not even go live, but use it for a meeting with another collaborator for music or film, like in another country, and sit down together and pass files together with like Google Drive or iDrive or something, and still do everything just the way we could do it before, but better because there's more available now than there ever was before. And that's like, I just stopped being a dinosaur about filming. I've been using the same Canon like camcorder lines for years. And I'm to the point now where the sensor in it's so old that the little light is gone, so it just gets blurry and it pisses me off. So I'm like, I gotta upgrade my camera. And I also looked at my cell phone because I've been using like the cell phones they give you free when you start with a cell phone
Oh,
company that fall apart, but I still use them for like 5 years longer than I should. I need a new phone. I need a new camera. And I started researching stuff. And for the first time in my life, I got what I call an adult cell phone. I got the new Samsung S24 Ultra. And
yeah,
I got the Ultra because I also needed the camera. And I was actually looking at the capability of the lenses and the cameras in this phone. And I'm like,
bro.
this is better than the entry levels of the Black Magic cameras and the red dot cameras that are like 3 to 5 grand. Like, this is better than that.
No, yeah,
So I got a nice phone and an amazing camera, like $1,400. I'm gonna be paying on it for a while, but I literally, effectively upgraded my entire capability by with one device. And I used to always say, I respect, filmmakers that make things from their phones, but you got to have a camera. And it took me the longest time to really like kick myself in the teeth and go, but why? But why do I think I need that when this really would legitimately be better?
yeah. Oh yeah, you see, and that's kind of what I use because I have what I call my media phone, so which is this bad boy right here.
Yeah.
So whenever I have my personal, when I go somewhere and I just link up the internet and boom, man, I use it for random things that I don't want to crowd up my phone, and I don't want to be mid journey, mid taping, and the phone rings or something, and then that really pisses me off, man. So
Yeah. And the cool thing about me is no one has my number because they never actually call people and talk
yeah,
to anyone. So no one's gonna call my phone anyway. No one that I
no,
want to talk to anyway.
yeah.
But yeah, it's cool.
No,
I found I was learning a lot about the handheld gimbals and stuff. Like
yeah,
Alchuan made a really cool one that I got. Unfortunately, the S24 Ultra is bigger than the S24, and they'll say all the companies say it'll fit the Ultra.
And it
None
doesn't.
of them actually do because they're just slightly too bulky. But my wife's got the regular 24, which is still an amazing camera. So
Yeah.
when I need to do like pickups at conventions and stuff like that, it'll fit that, or the iPhones that the kids have. So I can still get good footage, but for film, I had to use a tripod adapter, which still
Yeah.
it works just fine.
No, yeah, you see, and that's kind of like what I've been doing. I've just been picking at like things here and there, but for the most part, like I said, I've just been shooting randomly. I've got people interested, just people with no experience. So of course, it's just I'm learning, so that they're learning too. So it kind of goes hand in hand. But yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I do have stories. I mean, I have ideas in my head that I'm just like, man, I got to put them on something. And I had started blogging and I had started writing, and I was just like, man, I'd rather put it on video. I'll take notes. I'll remember. I'll text myself. I'll text my other number, and I'm like, hey, you know what, this and this, and yeah, I've got like 8 storylines right now I want to do, and all of them are going to be like real short reels. Like I'm not looking to do short stories or short films. I mean, that's for you guys, but for me, it's just going to be like 3-4 minutes tops. Just something simple, something quick, and get in and get out. But it'll be, it's cool stuff, man. I mean, I've told a few people, and they're like, oh, okay, like, my thing is a hard comedy. So I've been doing a few matchups, a few ideas, a few things that I've been putting together, and I'm like, man, I wonder what would happen if this happened in that film. And it's like, okay, boom, just change the storyline a little bit and just mash them up. So we'll see how that goes, man.
Thing is, long form is for YouTube because you know what you don't see. I mean, I personally never seen. Imagine you doing what you're doing and getting like an hour's worth of content from all these small projects, right? And then you create this character and storyline in the middle that just wraps it all together.
Yeah.
That's an anthology movie, but it's a modern day anthology movie made from viral type length videos. And I think that would be
Wow.
something really fucking cool that you could do, man. Like this something unique and interesting that suits your style.
Just give me an idea, man. Damn.
Yes, like it's the cool thing about creators because like we should all be able to talk and there's no competition. It's just like we should be able to see something that other people are too close to and just help, man. Like just generally just help and get out there and do things with each other.
No, you see, and I was going to ask you about that because yesterday I had a director here locally, and for the most part, a lot of local directors that I've been talking to here in San Antonio, they do work together. They know each other. They give each other like, hey, you know what, seeing locations, you know what I mean? Like they'll share actors. I mean, a lot of the local actors, of course, they get in pretty much everything they can get into.
Yep.
But it's pretty cool that they're coinciding and co-working because, of course, one day somebody might need a mic, somebody might need the lighting, and they're like, hey, you know what, anybody have this I can borrow, and it's like boom, and it's vice versa. You can help each other and grow, man, because that's one of the things I've been using a lot lately. Instead of saying let's go, I'm saying let's grow. Let's get together. Let's plug each other in. I mean, and of course, man, I mean, the fact that you do have a podcast, and I'm gonna post this up right quick. I mean, it's from, and I want to say podcast, but this is like, dude, you guys have like a whole line of network, man. You guys are networking like everything, and I'm loving it because I'm like, dude,
yeah, we got 14 shows. We're about to add another one here soon. So the Allied Society is our flagship show. It's the first show we ever had together. Me and the original co-creator, Delphine or Carrie Sanders, we've been writing friends for a long time. We came up in the horror, no sleep, and like Reddit writing group, right? We came up from that together, like as became best friends. And when we started that, what that show actually is a collection of writers and storytellers and just people that like want to talk about the time they saw a ghost or whatever.
Yeah.
And we started it with writers on a Discord server. And then we were with a different network that we did not own. We were just extra hosts on this one network a while ago. And we started that there. And then when we decided to form our own network completely, we thought, what's our network? Well, our whole network is about storytellers, telling stories through books, movies, through wrestling, through all these different music, all these different things. Because everybody's got this story to tell. So then we turned Allied Society, the concept we had, into a whole network, but we kept that show around, which we do at least once a month, sometimes more, as the reminder of we all have a story. And we do horror a lot for that, but we also do like, hey, there's this hilarious time where I accidentally stole a cop car with my best friend, or hey, man, I delivered a pizza the other day and you'll never believe what happened. Like it's episodes that are not horror. We had one for Mother's Day was just all us remembering really cool things about our moms, like So we do a lot of different things other than horror, but horror is still a big part of our network.
Oh yeah, man, it's a conversation. It's like every time I tell people to jump on, especially people that I know, and they're like, "Man, what are we gonna talk about?" And I'm like, "Dude, traffic, mosquitoes, heat. Along between everything else, we're gonna bring movies up. I mean, what we've been doing. I mean, you brought up Mother's Day. This is Father's Day weekend, man. So of course,
Yeah.
it's a good one. And that's like I posted earlier. I was like, it's Father's Day weekend, but it's Father's Day every day. I
Yeah.
get to be dad all year, but nonetheless, man, I mean, it's going to be a great one. This weekend I've got like two events I'm going to pop in on to get out. I think Saturday, for the most part, Sunday. I think I'm just going to come home and work on a few things. I've been
Yeah.
editing. I've got like two apps, and I'm going to ask you on this off the air, man. I mean, but I've got a question on one of the editing apps. I'm just curious to see what you've used or but we'll get into that. But
Yeah.
but yeah, man. I mean, but I agree, man. I mean, hopefully, there's going to be a show, and I do want to do this, man, probably soon. I want to get like different directors, producers, writers, and get them all in one episode, and just
Yeah.
kind of talk shop. Like, hey, you know what? I got so and so from here. I got so and so, and just you never know, man. You never know.
I love that kind of stuff. Like, so we do that for authors and a lot of different things like that too on some of our different shows. And like, it's cool because like everybody does things differently. And as a human being and as an artist, you're not right. You're not wrong, but you're not right in everything you do. Like, you do it because that's what works for you and that's what you've learned.
Yeah.
But sometimes you'll hear something that someone else is doing and you're like, oh my God, that solves like half of my problems. Why did I not think about that? And that's such a cool thing about the artistic community and all the different, in all its forms. Like, I'll hear a beat in music. I mean, I was a vocalist. I'm not a musician much anymore, but I'll hear a beat and it might even be a genre I don't even listen to, man. And it'll inspire me to write a song in that genre. No one will ever hear it, but I'll
Yeah.
write it and perform it and record it on my computer. Like, yeah, that was cool. I never thought about that. Or, at the haunt. I've been
It's,
doing it for 30 years, but every year a brand new haunter that I'm training comes in and has this wild idea. And I'm just like, thank you. I've been doing this forever, and you got to help me learn something new this year, and I get excited about that, man. I don't ever
no.
wanna know everything about everything, or I feel like I should just be dead.
Oh yeah, you see, and that's one of the things. Like with everything in life, you don't want to stop growing. You want to keep learning new things. I mean, technology is changing like every 30 seconds. It seems like so we got to keep learning new editing, new whatever's out there. When it comes to sound and film and true, man. Because even now, like when I was telling this story the other day to another guest, but I was telling them like my oldest had a cell phone before I did. Like I didn't have a cell phone. My oldest had one, and they used to make like create their own movies at home. And they show me the video, and I'm like, "How did you do that?" And they're like, "Oh, we just did this on the phone, Dad." And I'm like, and I didn't have a phone then. I wish I would have, because I would have been like, "Man, how'd you do that? Show me how to." And
Yeah,
I ask them now, and they don't do it as much, or just in general. But I'm like, man, I wish I would have kept with it, because I mean they were doing some crazy stuff, man. Like they were editing toward like one of the clips they did was on The Exorcist, when the girl's walking backwards.
yeah,
Well, my oldest had she was using my youngest as an extra, right? So she was walking on her hands, bro, and it blew me away, because I was like, how did you do that? Oh, well, I recorded and I played it backwards. And I'm just like, what? Like, you can do that? Like, I mean, it's just like, it was crazy, but I mean, it just goes to show, I mean, as far as technology, man, it's out there, and literally in the palm of our hand. We have our phones, and there's so much stuff on there, and it's just like, scary good, because there's so many things going on that you can learn.
right.
Get on Google, or get on the conversation and just start asking questions. But it's great stuff, man. Like I said.
Sometimes, the kids will ask me about something they know I know about, and I go to answer, and I'm watching them ask me these questions with the phone in their hand, and I'm going, "I could answer you." Or there's this magical little box that people can hold in the palm of their hands and ask questions to and get the answers. "What are you talking about?" "It's your fucking phone, man." They're like, "Oh, yeah," and they'll look it up, and then later they'll do it again, and I'll be like, "Your phone." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, we know, Dad, but sometimes you're a lot more fun to get the answers from." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, that's fine. If that's your answer, that's fine. If you just wanna know general crap that you can look up for yourself, then use your phone." But
You see, and I was gonna say to you, man, because for me, I can look at YouTube all day, and it's hard for me to learn from a video. Like I'm more hands on. Like you got to be like, okay, this button right here, and put your finger on this one, and that's what that does, and that's how I'm gonna learn. So yeah, I mean, I'll definitely agree with that, because
it's
at my work, there's guys that are youngsters, like probably mid-20s, but they do the website, they do all the digital audio at work, and I'm
Yeah.
always like asking questions. Like I'm like, hey man, how'd you do this? Or hey, how can I do this? And they're always busy, but I'm like, man, I wish I could get them for like an hour a day just to be like, okay, man, here's my laptop. Let's work on something. Show me how to work this editing app or whatever I have. But I'm
Oh yeah.
working on it. We'll see.
It's and the thing is, like, so I'm on a big educational journey for a while 'cause I've had to switch careers from different injuries and things over the years. I've got several college degrees that just kind of weren't doing anything, after a while from health reasons. And I was like, well, if I'm gonna eventually have to switch into writing only and podcasting only at some point in time, I've already got a broadcasting degree and I know all about that. So I don't have a degree officially in writing, which is going to teach me about marketing and all kinds of things that aren't just writing. So I'm up to the point now where I got 3 classes left after this one to finish my master's, but I got the opportunity to get a teaching certificate and go that route as well. So I can actually teach creative writing and literature and stuff.
Oh
And
wow.
that's helped me realize and help me with a lot of other things, like when I go to show people and teach people things. What I have to do know is first get to know them so I know how they learn better. Like maybe you're the kind of guy that learns hands-on. Maybe the next kind of guy learns by listening to things and repeating it. Maybe the next guy is a video guy. He sees a video, he can do it. Like I've known people that can recreate. My old guitarist from the band I toured in could play every solo that Slash ever played from Guns N' Roses. Not once did he ever look at guitar tablature. He did it all.
But
He
yeah,
could recreate anything by ear. If you showed him notes and tablature, he couldn't do it. He couldn't even read, could not even tell you. He didn't learn that way. So,
yeah,
like, it's about knowing how people learn. And when I train all our actors at the haunt for all their scenes and help them build their characters, I got to know that then. I've got 60 plus people that every season, I got to sit down with and be like, hey, what's our plan? What are we doing? Have you talked to makeup and costume yet? Okay. Well, let's have this conversation. And then I'll take you over there to that department. So, like, this haunt's a lot different when it comes to that than other haunts I've worked for. It's pretty integral. We all have these moving parts and we work together, but I still have to know how to start with all of them through getting to know them and paying attention to how they learn and just learning all that in school has really made it easier for me to communicate with people with my neurodivergence and feel like I'm in a comfortable place with people to not only teach them, but hopefully also somehow learn something myself in the process.
yeah. No, and I was gonna say, man, because a lot of times, like even in public school, for example, like teacher has 30 plus students, so if she's teaching one way,
Yep.
and she doesn't change it for nobody because there's no time. It's like, hey, we got 45 minutes. Okay, home. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
it does bring a lot of questions when it comes to teaching because, of course, if you're a great teacher, like you said, if you listen and you actually know your students, I mean, that changes a lot of things, bro. Because I wish, like in high school, like, I mean, okay, read page this, and I'm looking at the problem, and I'm just like, man, how the hell? Like, I'm looking at the numbers, and I'm like, I still couldn't figure it out. And it would
Yeah.
take that one person to be like, hey, man, you carry this over, and I'm like, done. Okay, I see it, but yeah, man. I mean, it's just with photography. I was doing photography for years. I started, I was always a camera guy. At parties, at shows. I used to do a lot
Yep.
of music shows. So for me, it was like when I got my first professional camera, which was a Nikon D7000.
Oh, nice.
And it was magical. I was just like, oh damn, like everything, the shutter speed. I mean, I was like going nuts. But I mean, I would get like somebody to go over like settings like with me like at least like once a month. Like I'm like, hey dude, I'm shooting in the dark. Like I got these photos, but how can I do this? And the aperture and changing, the little things that I'm like, I had to like look up and see what the heck it was because I'm like, okay, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. But it took me a while, man. But I mean, for when it came to photography, I mean, combat sports is what I covered. So boxing, MMA, kickboxing, and the shots were great, man. People loved them. So I'm like, okay, I got a knack for it, man. I just went out there and got my media pass and did what I could. But
And that's one of the hardest types of photography to learn because all the motion tracking you've got to do. Like, I'm not a great photographer. You put a video camera in my hand, I will blow your mind. But I am not great with still photography. Now my wife and youngest daughter, now they're photographers. They're amazing. I don't know how they do it. Like I can't even be still enough. You know what I mean? At all. So it blows my mind to see. Like I know how it's all done. I know how to do it all. I can't. So the people that can, I get a joy out of watching people do the things that I love that I can't do just as much as I do when I'm doing it because it hits that same feel.
man, I had this one interview with this one fighter one time, and I was interviewing them with my phone. So I had my phone up the whole time. I'm like this, and we were like that for like, man, 40 minutes. Like I'm talking to him, I'm just holding the phone. And after the interview, he was just like, "Man, that's amazing, man." And I said, "What is?" And he's like, "Dude, how the hell did you hold that phone so freaking sharp, dude? Like you didn't even shake once." And I was like, "Man, I never thought about that." But I was like, "Yeah, it's just natural. Now
That's
it's not so
a
much,
skill.
but
That's legitimately is a skill, man. Like it is like because with my medical issues, like I shake just enough, not much,
yeah,
but just enough where in film I can disguise it with movements. I have tripods, but in actual still, like when I need to be still, I cannot be
yeah,
ever completely still. So that's something that I physically can't do it. So like that is a huge talent because I know people that are still and can't still don't have that kind of stamina and that knowledge to know when to hold it, when to take the move and flex, when to get back into it. Like there's a lot of mental programming you have to do along with the physical in order to bring that together.
no, no, for sure, man. Because even
Because
in combat sports, like I would be cage side and like I would be on my knee or on my knees and I'm shooting and the whole time like the fight's going yeah, like far, it's getting close. So I'm constantly like bobbing and weaving, just moving, with the movement with the fighters. But it's like
yeah,
I realized like shooting the first few times, I was like, man, I'm getting some great shots, the angles, and I'm all about background. Like I would angle like the whether it's the sign on the left and I mean, I would find something and I'm like, boom, I would shoot it, and everybody's like, dude, that's came out freaking great, and
yeah.
shooting low. I mean, it's just like different things that I picked up throughout the years, But I mean, I enjoy it, man. I still do, It's just I haven't been doing much shooting lately, but I mean, the fights, I keep getting invited out there, and I gotta stop saying no, man, because one day they're gonna stop inviting me. So,
It will,
I
and that's
mean,
the thing, like, an industry this sucks really bad because I had a lot of huge contacts in the horror industry because I was filming all the time, I was going to cons. I stopped doing cons temporarily the year before COVID because my life got busy, and then COVID happened, and all these contacts, like, even people that are well known in the industry, they don't remember my name anymore, and, like, I finally because I was going back trying to get all my contacts, smoothed out, like, last year, and I realized that people didn't remember me anymore, and it was heartbreaking,
yeah,
but at the same time, I had to realize that I did that to myself
yeah.
because I didn't keep my face out there. I didn't keep out there where I needed to keep out with certain things. But then I found out as I went along that there were just as many people that did still remember me later. So that was nice. That was nice to find out that I didn't lose everything. But you gotta sometimes you gotta stress yourself out a little bit once in a while just to keep your face and your name out there.
No, no, for sure, man. Because yeah, it does happen. I mean, I know when it came to combat sports, I took almost a year off, man. I mean, I just needed a break. When I got back into it, I was talking to I had a podcast studio inside one of the gyms, right? And I was talking to the coach one day, and he was all like, "Hey, man, like a lot of these youngsters don't know you, man. You got to start coming out more." And I was just like, "Damn, like that's true," because there was like a lot of new faces, and I was just like, "Okay, you know what?" And it took a while, but I mean, all the old heads, all the there were coaches now, they remembered me, so they were like, "Hey, this is sPidA, like he's a cool dude," and so I was like, all right, man. Once I got like the crowd, the younger crowd, the younger fighters, the new fighters in, I was like, okay, we're back in, man. But yeah, man, it's just like I know so many people out there, bro. It's just one of the things, man. You talk about knowing as far as like people remembering your name, but at one point, I used to have a T-shirt company, and I was sponsoring fighters. It was supposed to promote like local fighters. Before I knew it, I was like, I had a fighter in Alaska, a fighter, fighting like all over the U.S. and like managers used to contact me like for all these top fighters that were in the UFC and Strike Force, and they're like, "Hey, I got your number from so and so. Here you're sponsoring," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah." He's like, "Well, we got to fight, in Corpus Christi. It's your neck of the woods if you're interested." So I'm like, "Okay," and it was amazing because I was like, "Oh shit!" Like people, and at one point, Dana White called me.
Oh wow,
At
yeah.
that time, he was actually managing Tito Ortiz, man.
Okay.
Before he was the UFC president, and he had called and he was like, "Hey, we got Tito Ortiz. He's got a big fight." He was asking for big money, bro. Like I was just like, "Oh, okay. Well, let me talk to my people, man. Let me see if we can come up with something." And he's like, "Yeah, yeah, call us. We'll promote you." And I was just like, "Damn, dude!" Like he was asking for big, big money. And yeah, sure enough, years like a year and a half later, like I mean, of course, I still have my contacts. He became UFC president, and I was like, man, I wonder if he still has the same number. So I called it and freaking disconnected, bro. I was
Right,
like,
right, yeah, that's the thing,
yeah,
like, they change things so much, man.
yeah. So I said, well, I said, but I told people that story and they're like, nah, bro. And I'm like, yeah, dude, like this is like one of the things I realized when it came to business or being out there is if you talk money, people listen.
They do.
So people are like, "Oh, you sponsor? Oh man, hey, how's it going?" Everybody wants to be your friend, and so I was just like, "Okay," I would throw that out there every once in a while, and
Yep.
and people, yeah, people wanted to talk to me because they were like, "Hey man, well we got a fighter coming up, and I'm like, "Yeah, dude, well keep me posted, let's see what we can work." And so it opened a lot of doors because of that. But I used to talk to management companies for some of the guys were lawyers. I mean, people that were like in contracts, and I was just like, "Damn, okay, well." Because I tried bringing a couple of fighters here for seminars, and big money. Like I said, at that time, it
Yep.
was still big money, and I was just like, oh, okay, well, let me see what we can do, and they're talking about flights, first class, room for the week,
Yeah.
just like all this crazy stuff, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, let me see what we can do, man, and too much money, brother, but you
It
know,
is. It is, man. And it's a lot to keep up with. But like COVID also, a lot of people died during that. So like an issue that I had was I knew a lot of agents to a lot of people that I'd worked on film sets with, all kinds of shit. Hands have changed, managers have changed, agents have changed. Some people died, some people retired during COVID. So that was the other big hit was like trying to now know which
who's
contacts I have are still alive, which ones remember me, which new contacts do I need to make for X, Y, and Z? And then you get to a point where you're like, okay, I've somewhat reestablished now,
yeah.
but you're looking at the top of the hill you're on, and then you're seeing the mountain that you still got left to go, and
No, that's true, man. Because yeah, I mean, when I started dabbing back into combat sports, like I mean, a lot of the coaches, management company weren't around anymore. They weren't managing fighters, and I said, man, like a lot of things changed. You brought up the whole COVID thing, man. Well, I'm in San Antonio, Texas. When COVID happened, when it broke out, it was actually here in San Antonio. They had the 3 people in Lackland Air Force Base. The lady went to shop at this mall,
Mhm.
and that's when they found out that she was positive, and they had to go look for her, bring her back in, and man, after that, it was just like everything started closing, bro. It was freaking surreal.
It was
But
2
yeah,
places
a
in the
lot of
same day. It was there in Texas, and then it was also in Colorado.
yeah, yeah,
When it happened in Colorado, I was there. I had just gotten married to my wife. Like we went to Colorado from Ohio to do this whole like we'd both been married before. We got permission from our families. We just eloped to Colorado, did the whole 420, like celebration, did all that. I caught it on the way home, apparently from where we were at in
damn,
Colorado when it happened. So I came home, got worse, went to the hospital, and they said, "Well, you've got COVID. We're not going to bother testing you because you have all the signs, and we have to save the tests like for the elderly and stuff like this." And they looked at her and they said, "Well, you're dying. You're not gonna make it. Do you want to die here or do you want to go home?" Mind you, this is after they wouldn't let anyone come in with me. My wife couldn't even come into the hospital room with me. And you're willing past people that are making the same crying sound. The doctors, the orderlies, the patients, everybody's making the same crying sound. Not enough rooms are available. So they're emptying out storage closets and putting beds in there. And I was in one of those where everything echoed. So to this day, what randomly I will just hear that sound from that day in my head. So I put my wife on the phone. I was like, "Do you want me to die at home?" And we had just fucking gotten married. Like we were newlyweds. And I'm like, "Do you want me to die with you or at home? There's no wrong answer. I want you guys to be safe." She's like, "Well, no, if you're passing, I want to be with you." So we made the big decision. I came home. I just kept getting worse and worse. And, we put plastic over the door and all that. And then I was unresponsive for 24 hours, almost 48 hours. But I
jeez,
still had vitals. So I was still alive. I was just unresponsive. And then one day I woke up. I literally woke up and each day I started getting stronger. I have permanent damage to my heart, lung, and brain as a result. And I've got the long COVID now because I was as bad as you could get without actually officially dying. And
yeah,
somehow I just survived it. And every day after that's been remembering who I am and who I used to be because there's memory loss. There's damage to the brain with that, and it's relearning how to be who I was, but also trying to figure out who I want to be now that my mindset's different.
yeah. Man, that's great. Yeah, you see, that's intense, dude. Because even, I mean, during that whole fiasco, dude, when everything was going on, I mean, I'm a contract delivery driver. I still do deliveries on the side.
That's what I was
During
doing.
that time, I was, yeah, yeah, dude. I mean, I was one of the CEOs from one of the stores I worked with calls me. He's like, "Hey, how's it going? This is John," and I'm like, "John," and he's like, "Yeah, big lots, this and that." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah, what's up, man?" And I would talk to him like I'd see him. He was set up in one of the locations here, but he was in charge of like Texas all the way up to Oklahoma. But yeah, he was like, "Hey, you still working?" And I said, "Yeah." That's none unless I'm getting fired. I said, he's like, "No, no, no," because the other delivery guys, man, they're not gonna work for like a month, And he's like, "Man, I got a store full of furniture," and I'm like, "Dude, well, I'm working." And he's like, okay, well, I'll tell everybody to call you. And he did, man. We had like 6 locations here, bro. So I
Heck yeah.
was booked like for weeks and weeks and weeks, and I was working from like 9 to 9, like every day. It was great. Made a lot of money, paid off a lot of stuff, But during that whole time, people were passing, people were getting sick, businesses were closing. I mean, it was like crazy, man. It's surreal, man. Because even when I was out there, like there was no traffic. People were working from home. It
Yeah.
was just like,
It's so nice. I miss less people being in public.
oh
With
yeah,
my neurodivergence, my social issues, like I liked it when things were quiet.
yeah,
I probably made more money like once I got better again. And I went ahead and I got the inoculations, all that stuff. So like I didn't have to wear a mask because I'd already had it.
yeah,
Um, got all the shots. I kept up with them religiously, so I didn't have to wear the mask, which was great. It's like I don't breathe so well. And I was working for Amazon, DoorDash, Instacart. You were a service. You hired me. I had my own car. Me and my wife did that. We cleaned up because also no one wanted to do those jobs either because they had to
yeah,
go out in public. So we were ready to go. We were armed to the teeth and just ready.
yeah,
And we cleaned up for a while until the world got back to normal. Everybody else wanted to start doing it again, and then now it's not as we've had to
yeah.
move on and find other things since then.
No, yeah. You see, for me, I mean, I did, like I said, I did great, man. Like I was like enjoying it. Like I said, I paid off a lot of stuff. I ended up, putting money away. I mean, it was pretty
Oh
cool,
yeah,
man. I mean, just the fact that I had a like a safety net, and like you said, when everything started opening up and other people started doing it,
yeah,
they had created 2 apps for delivery companies here when it came to furniture and bigger stuff, and
yeah,
that took my business basically, man, because I was just
yeah.
by everybody was buying online still, so I was losing out on a lot. So
Oh
I had
yeah.
to, go back to the workforce and start working somewhere.
But during
Very
that time,
fast,
we
man.
were
I
all
enjoyed it.
heroes, man. Like everything you delivered to someone, they were so fucking happy to get it. Like they were so happy that you were helping them stay safe at home. Like we got tips, like doing Amazon delivery. People would leave baskets outside with gift cards,
Bro.
coffee, like crazy shit. Like it was like some people do this around Christmas time for their delivery people for different stuff, but there were people doing this the whole time during
Yeah.
COVID. I think I only like there were times where I didn't pay for gas for weeks because I was getting gift cards from people that were just like sometimes it's like a $5 gift card, but that's still a $5 gift card when
Yeah,
people are giving them to me, like so, like, it was you knew you were doing something that mattered, yeah, you're just delivering, but you're also just delivering in a situation where these people cannot get
yeah.
these things for themselves. It's because it was technically a national emergency.
No, yeah, man. Because people, like you said, people were being very generous. I mean, I used to get some big tips, man. And my thing was because I would be delivering sofa sets, mattresses, dressers, like, and I was using pickup trucks, man. So I would like load what I could, but I mean, I'd get there and people were home, like just ordering stuff. They were working from home, just ordering, and
You know?
the fact that I could get it that same day, even better. They were like, "Oh, dude, here you go, man!" Like, boom, big tips, man. Like, I missed that. I definitely got to go back into that,
Yeah.
man. But it was one of those things, like you said, you're doing a favor. You're doing something that they couldn't be, they couldn't do themselves. I mean, for the most part, a lot of my business was same day delivery because if I could lock it in right there and then, people were like, "Oh, okay, okay, yeah, I'll buy it if
Oh,
you can
yeah,
take
right
it today." And I'm like, "All right, cool, man. Like, I'll go pick it up." But when it came to like scheduling, like, "Ah, never mind. I'll think about
Oh,
it,"
yeah,
and I would always
you
lose
let
it. But
someone
yeah,
else use it. Yeah, right. Oh, yeah, it was crazy, but the other cool thing about this is that these were people that were shut-ins. They were communicating with people on the internet, but not in person. So, like, we were weirdly also providing human contact with them without even intending to or being a part of anything. So we were a part of someone's day that benefited them mentally by seeing
yeah,
another human being that day in person.
no, no, for
I
sure.
didn't even think about it until after the fact. Like someone pointed out to me, I was like, "Oh yeah, I didn't really think about
Yeah,
that."
you see, for me, I know I used to deliver, I still do to a lot of residential homes, like old folks homes, what we used to
Oh
call
yeah,
them, I guess.
yeah,
But a lot of those the same thing, man, because during COVID, a lot of them were in lockdown, so I had to leave it up front. I couldn't even go inside. But yeah, when it opened up and I started going out there, like it's unfortunate because a lot of those people they didn't have family going, or maybe they didn't have family here locally. But man, I would go by and it was like a parade, bro. Hey, how's it going? Like I'm waving at everybody, knocking on people's doors, like waving, and everybody's like, "Oh, hey," like. And I'm thinking, like, man, that's like the only contact they'll probably have all day, man. And it's unfortunate, but
when we
um,
had
when it
service.
came to like me delivering, like for the most part, everything I would deliver there was like recliners,
Yeah, oh
you know.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I mean, I was just like, easy, and I would charge minimal, bro. Like I was doing a lot of stuff on the cheap, and it was just a favor, at times I wouldn't even charge them, bro. Like, I mean, I used to deliver to residential homes, and the lady's like, oh, I've been saving up for months, like, saving, and I'm like, you know what? I said, it's on the house, like it's paid for. And they're like, what? Like, no, no, no. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? Like, because man, I had so much business, bro. Like, I mean, I was just like, I could do that. I could say like, you know what? It's already been taken care of. No problem, man. And
Exactly.
they were happy, bro. I mean, it made me happy because I'm just like, man. I mean, to have to save up for like months just to buy something to sit on. I'm like, damn,
Yeah,
crazy.
it's a big deal, man. And like little gestures like that mean a lot to people. And
Oh
I wish
yeah,
more people realize that because if everybody just did small gestures every day, this whole world would be like just a way
dude.
better place to live.
There was I did this thing one day. I was going to work, and I was just like, I went by Walmart actually. And I was like, you know what? When I go in there, I'm just gonna start greeting people. I was like, I'm just because I was in a customer service. I worked at Academy Sports, right?
Right?
So I said, I'm just gonna walk in and dude, bro, I kid you not, dude. Like as soon as I walk through the door, there's some people coming out. And I'm like, hey, how's it going, guys? Y'all have a good day. And they're like, oh yeah, yeah, and man, like, dude, like the whole store, people were they were kind of freaking out or kind of like, who is this guy? But at the same time, like their attitude, they just changed, bro. And it's just like people would be um, like even now, like I go to fast food or I'll pick up something and I see people moping and I'll say something and I'll change the subject, like, hey man, how's it going? How you doing today? And they're like, oh, and just to cheer them up, bro. Because on the way out, I'm like, dude, I want them to be like, remember, like somebody actually, thanking them, like, hey man, thank you for showing up today. I know you don't have to be here, but man, we appreciate you. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, no problem, man. And it's just it's little things, bro. Little things that it's not gonna cost us anything. It's just like
Not
you
a
just
thing.
gotta be nice, free.
And time, what does it cost you? 2 seconds?
Yeah,
Like when it comes to people, I'm a big woods guy. When my health allows, like I love camping, I love being in the woods. It's a big chunk of my life growing up part time on a reservation. So like that's a big still part of who I am, identity wise. Well,
yeah,
when you're in the woods and you're doing a lot of things, the creed is, leave it better than you found it.
yeah,
I just apply that to people, not just places, because again, that hey, how you doing? And maybe they're having a bad day, and I make a joke that makes them smile for 2 seconds. You just change their mindset. Now they're
yeah,
not focusing, oh, today sucks. They're thinking, oh, this really cool guy talked to me today.
yeah,
And now the whole thing is just different. Someone's loading groceries. Hey, do you need a hand? I see someone pushing their car because it broke down. Tell my wife, hey, come over there, put your blinkers on. Go real slow behind them to give them space.
yeah,
Me or the son-in-law hops out of the car and helps to push the car where they're going. Like that took 10 minutes and maybe a little sweat, but it was only 10 minits and a little sweat. Like
yeah.
that doesn't
You
matter to
see,
me. I didn't give up anything to help.
that was one of the things, like especially when I was out and about doing deliveries. I would see people outside of the road, or
Yeah.
there's the car stalled, and I get up, put my hazard, put my cones on, and I'm like, hey man, you need help? I can help you push it. And oh yeah, and like, dude, quick, bro, like real quick, and it works both ways because I've been in that situation, and I'm like, man, somebody better stop and freaking help me,
Right.
and they do, people, somebody will stop and hey, you need help, and I'm like, yeah, bro, like, and they just help me move it out of the way or whatever the case may be, but it's good, man. It's a good deed, we do it because we're good people, and that's it, so
You see people
road
struggling, you
watching.
just remember your own struggles and you're like, how
Oh
can I
yeah.
help them struggle less today?
No, no, yeah, you see, but yeah, man, it's a lot of great stuff, and that's one of the things, like I was saying earlier, man. Like I would love to be able to, like, and I'm gonna do it, like have 4 people, 4 guests. I'll invite you on there, man. If
Oh,
we'll
yeah.
check on the schedule and just do a little intro, just talk about ideas and just kind of throw stuff out there, and I mean, I'm sure I would like to get people from different states just to kind of
Oh,
open
yeah.
it up, but at the same time, ideas. I mean, you might be stuck on something, and somebody say something that you're like, man, like that's it. That's what I needed. Kind of what you did earlier, man. I mean, you definitely put an idea in my head, and now I'm like, I'm gonna run with it.
I
See it.
fucking hope you do this, dude, and if you need any help, I'm
Yes.
volunteering right now because I just think that would be really cool, and you seem like the guy to do it. Like, you
Oh,
seem like the guy that could make this happen. I've
yeah,
actually been watching your shows for a while before I had messaged you about coming on because you're you do stuff that I enjoy. I
yeah,
like your point of view on things because you do have a unique and refreshing point of view when you would tackle, different subjects. You might talk about the same thing that someone else has talked about,
yeah.
but you talk about it in your way, and you have a really unique perspective that I've enjoyed listening to.
No, and I appreciate that, man. And for the most part, I always tell people I try to make it a good conversation, because even within a question. I ask one question and I get five more, you know, but that's kind of like my point. It's just like I open doors and I'm like, okay, well, how did that start? How did that go about? You know, and it's just, you'd be surprised, man, because even, I mean, people know me here locally and they know what I've done and what I've been involved in, but there's a lot of things they don't know. And it'll come up in conversation and they're like, bro, like, I didn't know you did that. I'm like, oh, yeah, you know, I've done a lot, dude. Like, I've done so much. And, you know, when it comes to music,
Sometimes people ask me a question where I'm like, oh shit, there was like 3 years of my life where I did this. Oh yeah.
yeah, I know. And then my thing is, like, I tell people, like, oh, yeah, I worked there for 5 years. Oh, I worked over there for 10 years. And they're like, bro, how old are you? Like, I mean, you've worked everywhere. And I'm like, bro, I've done, like, I was a garbage man for like a year and a half. I worked postal employee 15 years, bro. I was, you know, underground excavation in Florida, man. I was out there for like a year and a half working in the middle of nowhere, man. Like, I mean, freaking, we're working laying pipe underneath for like the water system and freaking, dude, like nothing but like Crocs running by, and we're like, look, you know, have to keep looking back, make sure they didn't sneak up on us, man. But it was just like crazy, you know, crazy times, good times. You know, it's just work. But I mean, man, I met a lot of great people along the ways, and you know,
And you
that's
said
cool,
something that
man.
makes me laugh too, because you'll have those people like, well, how old are you? How did you even have time to do all that?
Yeah,
I mean, there's 3 people in the room with you just laugh and they're like, what? They're like, dude, you don't even know this guy. Like
yeah.
all these things that he's telling you he did. Oh yeah, we were here for all of that. And he probably did most of them at the same time some years, like at the
Oh
same
yeah,
number.
bro.
Like people don't get that kind of drive and that passion that, making your way out there. People call it a hustle. I don't even call it hustling, man. I just call it applying yourself and knowing what you want and
Yeah.
not making excuses from yourself. Just
Oh, that's true. You know, because I think when I went to Florida at one time, I had three different jobs. I worked. I was a painter. I was working on painting and waterproofing for with my brother-in-laws and my brother. Um, in the evening, I was working at a janitorial. Man, I was cleaning buildings like 5 hours a day, Monday through Friday. And on the weekends, I was working at this restaurant right there by the Gulf of Mexico and Florida side, which it was funny because when I saw you know, it said Gulf of Mexico, and I'm like, well, I thought that was only in Texas, but the golf is like, you know what I mean? Like it blew my mind. This was like early '90s, you know. But I was just like, there's another golf, and they're like, it's a whole golf, man.
yeah.
Like, you know, it was just mind blowing at that time. But I was just like, oh, okay, makes sense, you know. But being from Texas, I had never been anywhere, and it's just like kind of blew my
Right.
mind when I heard that. But yeah, man, I met a lot of great people, man, along the ways. You know, made a lot of mistakes, learned a lot.
We all
So,
make mistakes. That's the best way to learn is
oh
to
yeah.
go screw something up and then figure out how to do it better.
Yeah, so definitely, man. And bro, I mean, you had brought up music earlier. I mean, are you still involved with music when it comes to like production or recordings?
So not like I was, man. Like I had started frontmanning and singing for bands, like start when I was like, me and my brother I was 12 and he was 13, we were getting the haunts. We had our band. We had a drum, we did little shows at places, whatever. And as I get older, I just never stopped doing it.
Yeah.
And then I got with this band called Freak, FREQ. And that was when like we hit. Like we opened for a lot of big acts, we did festivals, we did little mini tours, we played shows. We released an LP that was, I'm not gonna say it was the most successful thing in the world, but for an indie band Ohio that was just getting out there, like I mean, we sold over 10,000 copies in the first year. And again, 10,000 copies isn't a lot to a band, but when you live in Ohio and no one knows you, it is. It's a lot. So, I did that for a decade. We had a couple, band changes. And then as my brother was getting out of the military, the band just kind of fell apart. Everybody kind of had their own vibe about what they wanted to do. Friendships kind of got screwed up along the way from, people doing questionable things. And I dipped. My brother and I resumed like 3 different bands all in one that we'd had before. He had a drum machine. He played guitar. I sang. We had a friend that was a drummer, and
That was it.
we just started doing stuff for a while. But then when he passed away, I was like, no matter what I've done with music, it's always gone back to me and him at some point.
Yeah.
And I still sing, man, like all kinds of different genres. And I just record on my computer sometimes, because I've got my mic, I've got my whole audio set. I do a lot of audio recording, like
Yeah.
voice wise. And I was like, like once in a while, I'll get inspired. I think the last thing I did was this weird industrial cover of Heart Shaped Box by Nirvana. It was just this weird project I wanted to do.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. One time it was like a pop version, like almost like pop, a little bit of techno version of Men Without Hats, the song they did the safety dance from back in the 80s.
Oh yeah, dude.
I've even done rap. Like I did a big rap battle video. It was Santa versus Krampus for the Haunt last year. And I, did the beat, I did all that. So it's like I like all music. I don't care what genre it is, but I don't do it commercially anymore. I miss it though. I mean,
Yeah,
I miss being out there with a band and singing and being out there. And I definitely do it again. It's just the opportunity hasn't
yeah.
nothing's came up that's just really like, oh, you need to do this. So I just haven't. But
No,
I
yeah.
just miss it again.
And that's one of the things too, because growing up, I mean, I'll be 50 this year. So with that being said, like growing up, my older siblings were like 8, 10 years older than us. Um, Early 80s, my older sister was still listening to disco. She was still doing the Afro thing, man. And my older brothers were listening to AC/DC, Quiet Riot, like a lot of rock. My youngest sister was listening to like teeny bopper stuff from like Mexico and here in the US. And so we listened to everything, So I'm grateful because it got me to listen to a lot of Motown, a lot of funk, a lot of disco, a little bit of everything. I mean, here in Texas, we have what's called Tejano, right? So it's just like
Very
conjunto, like
familiar.
accordion. And so it's just, so people always ask me, like, man, what music do you listen to? And I'm like, man, it depends where I'm at. If I'm with friends, if I'm with family, if I'm at home. But I love it all, though, man.
Oh yeah, there was even a short so I've done weird things musically. Like I was an Elvis impersonator for a while and actually did Elvis. I was very good at it. Then when I stopped doing that, I started doing a project. It was a Doors cover band, and then I went from that to cutting and bleaching my hair and doing a Billy Idol cover band. All in the meantime, being in original bands too. And I even did reggaeton for a little bit. It was like a year of my life because my ex-wife, she was Cuban Puerto Rican, and her grandma before she passed thought I had the voice and I could do reggaeton. I didn't do a lot with it, but I did it for her because
Yeah.
she really liked it and believed in me and wanted me to do it. And it was a fun little project. It was cool, and I got to learn about a genre and style of music I knew about, but not much about, and it broadened my horizons and got me to listen to something and be involved with something I would have never gotten involved with.
Dude, that's cool, though, man. I mean, the fact that you can explore and try different genres, because I mean, like I said, what I mean, like for me, and I always incorporate like horror when it comes to from 80s. I mean, like punk
Yeah.
rock music, man. I still listen to punk rock, and for me, I always kind of
Yep.
like put those together. But because of that, like now, like I'll listen to the soundtracks a lot more. I'll listen to the music, and I'm like, oh, okay,
Yep.
cool, man. Like it's just things that I never noticed when I was younger, of course, But now it's like, I mean, I look at the lighting, I look at the angles, I look at, and I'm just looking at the movie, and I'm thinking like, man, it's a good movie, Like I might not like the storyline, but I love the cinematography. I love the angles. I love the audio, and I'm like, dude, everything killed it. Like the storyline, it didn't get me, but everything else, I'm like, dude, it was dead on. It's just, but
And that's an attitude that people don't get. Like I don't care if it's a song, if it's a movie, a TV show, a Honda attraction, whatever it is. I don't get the critics that are out there bashing everything. How about instead, you find a couple things about a project you really liked and be like, "Hey, you know what? This wasn't for me. It may not be for you, but here were a couple cool things that it did."
yeah,
Like, that would be a proper way to, like, celebrate artistic endeavors and
no,
just say,
yeah,
"Hey, it's not my thing," but also know that it's other people's things and you're giving them good information. So, like, there's always a big push for that, and that's something we talk about on our network a lot. Like, we have a show called Tomb where we watch terrible movies so you don't have to. And it's like Plan 9 from Outer Space, but it's also other like indie movies. And people think we're automatically going to trash them. And some of us give low scores too. But
right.
what rules? Like we don't. One of us might have a big rant about why we didn't like something, but then they'll also turn around and say something they did like. So like we're very careful on like how we never hate on anything.
Oh yeah, yeah. What you see, and that's one of the things. Like me, and my buddy, man, we've talked about, and one of the things, the hashtag that we started using for a while was not my horror, because I was just
Yeah.
like, bro, like when it comes to like horror music, horror movies, I'm older than him, so of course he's like, oh, dude, I'm a '90s guy, and I love '90s movies too, but I mean, we have different tastes. So there's movies that he'll watch, and he's like, oh man, that was great, and that was this, and I'm like, dude, like I didn't get it, like it didn't do nothing for me, like it's great. I'm glad they put it on the big screen, like but and that's not my horror, man. It's not for everybody. So, but for the most part, I'm glad everybody. When indie films are able to get on the big screen or they get that opportunity, I'm like, dude, awesome. I mean, I wish all of it. I wish everybody could, because of
Yeah.
course, out of the 100 people, yeah, yeah, it's
I was
a great
just talking about
opportunity.
Tubi earlier today and how revolutionary it's been for horror.
Yeah.
Found footage is one of my favorite subgenres of horror, and like literally, Tubi is single handedly keeping that subgenre alive because they do so much with indie filmmakers specifically for that subgenre. There's whole groups on Facebook dedicated to filmmakers right now.
Yeah.
That even right now, actually, I know 3 people right now in that group that are filming right as we speak in their projects, and 2 of them are headed to Tubi when they're done. So it's like it's crazy, man. Like, but the thing that's universal about horror is this: it is the most subjective genre in all of mankind. It's also the oldest because when we started off, being at the fire, cavemen, we were talking about dangers.
Yeah,
Hey, don't go to this area for hunting because this thing's going to kill you. That's horror.
yeah,
But it was horror to teach and impart a healthy respect of fear. That's what horror
yeah,
was when it started. And now, like, haunted house movies get me, like, movies about, like, hauntings, like, that's something I grew up with and have a lot of negative experience with as a child, so those movies affect me profoundly. Slasher movies I laugh at. They're fun, I enjoy them, they don't freak me out. Person next to me thinks ghosts are a joke, but are terrified by slashers. That doesn't mean either of us are right. That just means that horror was subjective to us.
yeah,
I was talking to a lady the other day who refused to read any of my books. She's like, "Yeah, I was it's my first ever author table. I was doing great." Lady comes by, she's like, "Oh, you do horror. I can't read your stuff." I was like, "Not to be rude, but can I ask why?" She's like, "I just can't do all the blood and guts." So I was like, "Well, ma'am, let me explain something."
yeah,
And she started listening. She liked true crime. I'm like, "Well, that's actually horror." She's like, "Well, how?" And then she mentioned like Silence of the Lambs, like the psychological aspect. I was like, "Well, ma'am, that's horror. Let me explain why." So I helped her realize that she had been interacting with horror, like, and she was in her 70s. I was explaining. I showed her that how she'd been reacting to horror for 60, 70 years without realizing that she just had a very, very narrow view on what she thought horror meant.
yeah,
But just that moment of her really listening and, being willing to be open at that time was a big thing because she didn't
oh,
know
yeah,
me. She could have told me to shut the hell up and go away. But, like, she was receptive, and I learned something about horror, about how subjective it really is, and she learned that horror is a lot more than she thought. So, like, we both came away learning this really cool thing together at different ends, and that's what horror is. It's different for everybody, man.
no, no, for sure, man. Because even now, like, I mean, growing up, like, we didn't have cable. Like,
Yep.
the beginning years, we didn't have cable, man. So it was watching reruns, So Twilight Zone, Alfred Hitchcock, Black and White, that's what we were watching, and I'm glad it happened because I was like, man, caught a lot of classics. Being here in San Antonio, man. I mean, we used to watch lucha libre, wrestling.
Oh,
So of
yes.
course, like
Oh,
El
yeah.
Santo versus the La Momia, Blue Denim versus the Vampire. Like I'm like, dude, like all that stuff I was leading up,
Oh,
and
yeah.
so it was just culture, man. It was just something that I was like, okay, well, it's just they're fighting monsters, and of course the whole monster thing stuck. But yeah, just I mean later on, of course, watching Vampira and friggin' I mean just classics that are 80s now, But it's just like I mean for me, it was just like it was a little introduction, and before I knew it, I was just like, "Oh man, I'm a horror fan. Like, I love this stuff, And like you mentioned earlier, when it comes to slashers, like, yeah, like I don't. I think for me, what scares me more is not the person wearing the mask, but the person without the mask, because you don't know who that is, And that's what gets me because it's like when it's like everybody looks the same, and you're like, okay, well, who's the killer? This guy, everybody's wearing suits, everybody's smiling, and you're like, okay, that's what gets me, man. So those are the kind of psychological thriller, suspense, like films. On that note, the horror comedies, I'm a big fan too. So it's like if I'm laughing, it's like I tell people, I'm like, I gotta laugh, dude. I gotta like laugh at situations because that's how I deal with stress. That's how I deal with life. It's just like if I don't laugh at it, then it's gonna eat me up. So I gotta laugh.
Comedy is healing, man, and no matter what situation, like, a relative could die that day, and you will find something weird, like, when I lost my first kid, and my first fiancée into a car accident, I went really bad off, I started drinking a lot, I got into things I shouldn't have been into, and then someone told me a dead baby joke one day, and I'm not gonna tell one on the show because I know how, that's
No,
not an appropriate thing for a podcast, we don't do it on ours either, but, like, and it was terrible. It was disgustingly terrible and poor taste, but it made me laugh, and I felt guilty at first for laughing about this
yeah,
terrible joke about a dead child, and I don't know why, but it became this thing to help me cope with the loss of my child for some stupid reason. I learned over 100 of them within the first year.
yeah,
And it, again, wildly inappropriate, terrible thing to be interested in, but like grief is weird, man. Like you can't control over what makes it feel better or what makes it worse. Just the weirdest things will hit you. And so even now I have friends that'll tell me a new one once in a while that they think I haven't heard. And then I'll tell them like 20 they've not heard. But those are the friends that like I have very specific relationships. I don't go like telling all my friends these jokes, obviously.
yeah,
But it was a weird, stupid thing. And then there are certain movies that I will laugh so hard. I shot Mountain Dew out of my nose the other day, It's a brand new movie. Boy Kills World with Bill Skarsgård. I just watched that last week. I laughed so hard, man. Like, and he's murdering people, and all this crazy shit's going on. And then something happens with the dialogue, and Mountain Dew just hit my screen, and my nasal cavity burnt for like an hour. But like, I was having the worst day when I turned the movie on, and right after that happened, I had a great 3 days after that, just remembering how stupid I was for shooting Mountain Dew out of my nose, and then remembering why I laughed in the first place. But I find things like that happen more with probably with horror comedy than
Nah.
or comedy and terrible subjects, kind of combined. And I think that's just my humor, I guess.
No, you see, and it's like I think somebody called it once like a dark sense of humor, or they were like,
Mhm.
"Oh man, you have a dark sense of humor," and I was like, you know what? There's things that I laugh at that I shouldn't laugh
Oh,
at, but
sure.
it's like when it happens, I'm like, "Oh man, like that was a good one," and I'll say stuff myself too, and I'm just like,
Yep.
"Damn it, I shouldn't have said that," but
Right after
it's
you said it, I do that a
yeah,
lot.
it's been said. Like I just let it go. But I was gonna say this, man. When it comes to like depression, because I mean everybody deals with it, man. And like the
Oh,
way
yeah.
I deal with it nowadays, it's like I'll listen to the most depressing music that I can find.
And feel your feels, man.
Yeah, and it's like I get it to where it's like it's got me right at the bottom, and then boom, like it's out, dude. It's out of my system. But it's just like, and I've dealt with that since like the '90s, bro. Like I'll listen to like music that's like, man, not to make it worse, but it's just like puts me in this mindset where I'm like, okay, eventually I'm like, you know what, things will get better, man. And it's
Honestly,
like,
a lot of
done.
early grunge does that, like early alternative and grunge. Like tail end of punk going into grunge is probably like the era where I get the most of my feels from like when Chris Cornell was like really getting going, like even before
Oh
Kurt, like
yeah,
the
bro.
beginning of a lot of that, like I'd say like 85, 86 till
Yeah,
about the mid 90s. And that's in like not even it's in other genres too, like hip hop. There's a
yeah,
lot between mid 80s and mid 90s hip hop that's just like soul wrenching, dude.
yeah,
Like, I could literally listen to, Just Like Suicide by Chris Cornell and Soundgarden over here, and then listen to Boys to Men, End of the Road, the next song after, and just be blubbering and just tears, dude, and I'm not even an emotional guy, but when I'm down, I know that if I make myself feel those things,
yeah.
because when you're raised, like, 'cause I'm sure you were also, because I'm gonna be 43, or sorry, 42, I can't remember how old I am this year, but, like, we're not that different in the time frame. I was raised that, guys don't cry, you don't show
Oh,
emotion. If you're neurodivergent and crazy, you hide it because that brings dishonor on your family, and, and also growing up between Sicilian and, native culture was they also had their own things about why I should or shouldn't cry or shouldn't do that, so
oh yeah, bro.
I always decided that I was gonna be an out loud neurodivergent person, and on our network, we actually have one show called The Padded Cell that celebrates all our neurodivergences, like all our insanities, like our stupid shit.
Oh,
One day we talk about OCD and what it really is versus what people think it is.
yeah,
But then we'll swirl out for talk about comic books for an hour in the middle of it all because some of us are ADHD and we don't stop it. We don't sell things to people on that show.
yeah,
We don't do anything that benefits the network for that show. We only do things that benefit us as the hosts and the people watching that might want to talk about things that
yeah.
other people just don't want to or don't feel comfortable talking about.
No, no, for sure, man. Because even now, when it comes to like humor, because I was in middle school, and my teacher was Mr. Clayton, big old tall black guy, right? He's a athlete. And like I was real quiet, man. I'm real shy. So in school I was just tend to myself. I didn't speak much. But on one we were playing basketball, and he starts talking about the different guards. Like, hey, we need a right guard, or we need a center. We need this, and he's like, anybody else knows what we need? And I raised my hand, and he goes, oh, Mario, and I was like, what about right guard? And he started crying, and everybody starts laughing, bro, because I made like deodorant, right? I mean, I just
Yeah,
made a
yeah.
little crack, but everybody starts laughing and everything. He's like, man, this whole year, like you don't say a damn thing, and that's the only thing you say, and then, but he's laughing while he's saying it. But that's when I knew I was just like, man, I'm gonna have to get people with humor, man. So when I'm delivering furniture, I'm helping people. Like I always say something funny. Once I get them to laugh, I already know I got their attention, and they're like, oh, okay, they relax, they unwind, and it's like, man, that's when I get to work, man.
And you got an ace in the hole. 'Cause if you're doing like furniture, like appliances, you can ask them if the refrigerator is running. And that's a whole
Well,
other that's like a built-in like industry joke right there. You can just
oh yeah.
icebreaker right there, man.
Yeah, bro, because it's one of those things. I mean, but I got customers that have become friends. I mean, they'll call me and hey, can you help me with this or hey, and I'm like, yeah, no problem, man. Like when I'm in the area, I'll stop by and for the most part, it's just like simple stuff, man. And I don't charge them. I just go and help them I had a lady, and she all she needed was a light bulb change. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'll be by there tomorrow. And I made it a set. I wasn't in that area, but I went out there and called her. I'm like, hey, I'm going to be out there in a few minutes.
Yeah.
Went out there, talked to her for a bit, and for the most part, a lot of people just want conversation, man. They just want someone to talk to. And I'm like, hey, how's it going? How you doing today? And it's just like, I mean, spend time with them and then leave. Keep going. But
The sad
we all
part
need
is,
that. Though.
we all get lonely sometimes. All of us. It don't matter how successful or non-successful you are, how much money you have, how poor you are. It does not matter your life situation. You'll be lonely sometime, and sometimes just talking to one person, even somebody like you, come to change a light bulb, man. That person could be suicidal that day, and you don't even know it. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah,
Like,
bro.
you showed up just to change a light bulb, which totally restored some faith in humanity they had lost ages ago. So it's like it's a single action can have this butterfly effect.
Man, I had and it brings me. There was this customer, and it was him and his buddy, and I helped them move out of this bad apartment. They were having issues, and this went on for like weeks and months. They were just like, "Hey, we're gonna move," and so it got to the point to where I'm like, "Hey, whenever you guys are ready, let me know." And like one Monday, I think it was, they were like, "Hey, Wednesday, we're gonna move. Get everything as much as we can out of here." And I'm like, "Okay, I'll drive up. Help you guys unload." It was upstairs. And so I'm like running everything down, man. And we didn't take everything, but I mean, it was just one of them was like he needed a cane, was a big old heavy set dude, and his buddy was, he was real thin. Like he wasn't, not to say he wasn't strong, but I was just like, man, I'll get it. I was just throwing stuff on my shoulder and I'm running stuff downstairs. I helped them up to the apartment. I helped them set up. And they're like, hey, we were gonna go to Sam's. We needed to get stuff, and I'm like, dude, let's go, bro. Are you sure? I was like, yeah, let's go. Went shopping, and I stayed pretty good friends with them, man. Like they call me like for little things here and there, and I bring this up because like one day he called me. He's like, hey, I'm not feeling great, and I'm like, dude, you need to go to the hospital? And he's like, no, like I just, I don't feel so good, and I'm like, okay, well if you need anything, man, call me. I'm gonna be running around. Well, the guy passed away that day, bro.
Oh man.
And his buddy calls me. And he's just like, "Hey, Johnny's in the hospital, man. He's not doing so good." And I said, "Okay." I said, "Dude, well, keep me posted, man. Like, let me know." And so, like later on that day, he calls me. He's like, "Hey, he didn't make it. Like, he ended up having a heart attack. He was in bad shape. He had a lot of health issues, man. And so I'm just glad the guy's resting because he was suffering a lot. But man, it hit me, And I was just thinking, like, damn, you know what? Because he would call me and I would answer. So I'm like, I'm glad I did because I was just like, dude, I would have sucked if I would have just been like, I'll call him later. And that day never, that time never came. But yeah, man. But it's things that happen, man. And a lot of times, I mean, with him, it was his health, but you never know. You never know what that one person just needs to hear a little like, hey, man, keep going.
Yeah.
Don't stop. I mean, real
I know,
simple.
one of the co-owners and co-hosts of our network, my best friend Pyle, he just lost his best friend in a farming accident while he was at Midwest Hunters Convention in Chicago. This happened on the last day he was there, and he got the call and everything. So, and that funeral was just like today. So he's been struggling a lot. Like, on the network, he's like, "Hey guys, I need your permission to take a back seat." And we're like, "Whoa, we're a family here. You don't ask permission to take a back seat. You just say, I
Yeah.
need to take a back seat, and we file in ranks and help you." So now every other day, I'm messaging him like weird, stupid shit. Like today, I messaged him and I was like, "Hey, dude, I got the most amazing news, and you have to hear it." He calls me. He's like, "Dude, what's going on?" I was like, "I like turtles." That's it. Just that's because that's I do this shit to them about the turtle thing all the time. So like, it was just I like turtles, and he just stopped. And he laughed so hard, and he was like, "Dude, you have no idea. Like, I've been having a really shitty day, and that."
Dude, that's awesome.
So like, that's something that that we all do as the family. We're there for each other when we're having tough times. We reach out, even when we know they don't want we don't want to talk to each other because we need some space. That'd be that little message, that even if they don't read it, they read it on their own time. They'll still see it eventually, and
Yeah.
they'll just know. And like, I was just always taught that being a good person in life will serve you whether that's your intention or not.
Yeah.
Just knowing that you're being a good person and that's positively affecting people's reward enough for anything. But
No.
when things come back to you because of it later, that's just icing. And all these industries in horror, whether it's writing, art, wrestling, all these things,
Yeah.
the better you are of a person while you're doing those things, man, people remember that. Even if
Yeah.
you're not in that industry anymore, someone at some weirdly opportune time is going to remember that and give you a call. I'm that call to change your life just because you were a good person.
Yeah.
And it's nuts, man.
No, yeah, there's this one fighter, man, and he used to live in Austin. I mean, he was training in the Philippines. No, he was training in Thailand, and stumbled upon some financial, man, where his sponsors didn't come through, and he was stranded, and he was just like freaking out. And I had gotten home from work that morning. It was like 3 in the morning. I was at the post office. See, I posted, and I hit him up. I was just like, "Hey, man, how's it going? You doing okay?" And he was just like, "Man, like I'm freaking out. Like my sponsors, they hadn't sent my money. Like I need to get my visa. I'm gonna be stranded here." And I was just like, "Bro, well, what do you need?" And he told me, and the number was high, bro. I ain't gonna lie, but I was just like, "Man, you know what? I have that money, bro. Like I can send it to you, man." And he was like, "What?" Like, and I said, "Yeah, bro. Like, you know what? Don't worry about it." And he's like, "No, no, so I'll pay you soon." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Don't worry about it, man. Just whenever,
Yeah.
And like, yeah, he was able to get that through, come back, and get himself out of that situation, man. But it was just, I did it because I wanted to. I mean, to this day, like I had told him, because I was just like, you know what, man, like it just so happened I had that money. I said, I don't need it. I mean, don't worry about it. I mean, just pay it forward, man. Whenever that opportunity comes and you can pay it forward, I said, just keep going. And I'm sure he has it, because he has a good heart. I mean, he's still out there training and doing his thing. And
Yeah.
but and I mean, I know a lot of times we can't help financially, but I mean, even just
Yeah.
here to listen to you know conversation, man. I mean, anything
Yeah.
helps.
I know anytime like I've been strapped for cash so much the last couple of years, and like I always feel bad when someone says, "Hey man, can I borrow $20?" I was like, dude, I don't want to tell you this, but like I got to tell you, this week $20 will make or break whether I lose my car or not. I want to help you, but what's the actual root of your problem? Talk to me for a little bit, and then through those conversations, maybe I find a completely other way that helps them more. And,
Yeah,
but I mean, not financially, but in another way that then will lead to
yeah,
financial help, or maybe they don't know the number of their local, food family services, or whatever. Maybe they're just nervous about that. Oh, dude, I got you. I will look up every hotline, everything in their whole area, and it'll take them months to do what I can do in 5 minutes.
nice, man.
Like, so if I can do that, I'll do that too. Like, I
Yeah,
can't give you the $20, but I can help you find it, or I can help you crowdfund, or I can
yeah,
something that I can do to at least, lessen your burden. And sometimes, man, just reposting something for somebody.
yeah.
And people say that and they think, "Oh, how is reposting something gonna help?" Oh, it does. Because more people are seeing it. And then maybe the person that can help with
Oh
exactly what
yeah.
that person needs in that moment would never have seen it had you not reposted that one thing.
Oh yeah. You see, because that helped somebody the other day too, man. I mean, they were hurting, and I'm like, dude, I've been there. I've been there myself. It's just, I mean, sometimes we're good, sometimes we're not. But I
Yeah.
mean, the fact that I can help. I can't help you with that some amount, but you know what? This is what I got, dude. I'll send you what I can.
Yeah.
And
Two
I
cents,
mean,
and I'll
next
pass it
person will
around.
do the same thing. Yeah, bro.
Yeah, man.
But that's good though, man. I mean, the fact that you can help somebody else and be that good person, and vice versa. We need somebody, of course. Somebody else will be there for us and
We all
return
need
that
somebody
favor.
sometimes, man. Like that's like I said, we're all lonely. We need somebody for some reason or another sometimes. And so just be that person for other people when you can. And hopefully when you're in your moment of need, there will be other people that, you put enough good out there, and hopefully another people are putting out enough good out there that, it comes back around when it needs, maybe not when you want it to, but
No,
when you need it to.
yeah. No, no, for sure, man. And of course, and that will happen. I mean, good deeds. I mean, they get rewards coming in masses, dudes, and I believe that. Because there's been situations where, I mean, I'm hurting and I'm thinking like, man, like I'm not one to ask people, but it just out of nowhere, man. Somebody, go, hey, man, you know what? You helped me out, dude. Like I want to pay you back, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, like.
Right. Yeah.
It's just like, dude, perfect timing, because it's just, I mean, the struggle's real, man. I mean, I'm out there, juggling jobs and doing what I can just to stay busy and stay afloat. But at the same time, I mean, I'm able to keep moving.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've
And
got my health, I've got other things I can work with. So I'll
we all
take it.
we all want to be creators and artists. We want to podcast for a living. We want to make movies for a living, music. We all right. We want to do these things for a living and not worry about things.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, the reality of that is, though, man. Even when Stephen King made it, for example, he still busted his ass doing millions of things. Even today, he's not had to work a normal job in forever. That man could have sat at home and never done anything but write the rest of his life.
Yeah.
Is that what he's done? No. He's gotten out there. He's done things for the hell of it. He's started charity foundations. Like he's done stuff, and it never mattered to him that he had the money. And this is the same with a lot of famous people. Like it doesn't. The money's just something that comes with it, or the fame is something that comes with it, and they're more interested in still being that person,
Yeah.
still being that person, that good person in someone else's life. They just have more capabilities to do that now, and that's the cool thing about it. A lot of us, we'll all still be working 2 or 3 more jobs, going back to school while we're doing what we're doing, and maybe something sticks. And that just means, cool, we found that thing, and we can use that thing to benefit everyone and bring everybody else up around us too, you know? So
No, for sure, man. And I was gonna say too, man, because a lot of times, especially with celebrities, they get used to not being around people because, of course, everybody wants to take their photo and check their hand, so
yeah,
they stay away from people, so they're not as social. So for them to actually be able to say, okay, I'm not that person anymore. Like now, I can go get my own groceries. Go out there and actually do my own thing, and
yeah, man.
I'm sure they miss that, man.
Yeah, I messaged Henry Rollins not that long ago because he was going to be in my area for Horror Hound in Ohio, which I was at covering for the network.
Oh, nice,
And
bro.
I'd seen him before. I saw him in Nebraska, actually, in Lincoln. One of his big stand-up shows where the dude has like one glass of water, talks for 2 or 3 hours straight without stopping,
Yeah.
does a 2-hour encore without being asked to, and still only drinks that one glass of water the whole time. He doesn't stop. And I'd messaged him. I was like, man, you're going to be up there doing this special event for Horror Hound. I'm like, I'm living 25 minutes away. I'm covering it. Could I get an interview? And he messaged me back. He didn't know me. He used my name and everything. Like he didn't know me though. He's like, all right, Raz, man, listen up. I want to say yes, but I'm not going to. And here's why. One, I love that you're a big fan of mine. I can tell you are because you know things more than most average fans do. You seem like an amazing person. You're very supportive of me. I see you repost things, but for a long time in my career, everybody told me I had to say yes to everything all the time. And it burned me out. And it almost made me not do music. It almost made me not do spoken word or do film. It almost ruined everything for me because it put me in a bad mental space. And so I decided a couple years ago that unless I was being made to because I had done a movie or something like that, that I just wasn't gonna do interviews anymore. I was like, I'll hang out and talk to people, I'll bullshit with you, and if it happens to be on camera, cool. But I don't do interviews, man. He's like, but please don't think like I'm this cold-hearted guy because I do generally care about you. Like, I
Nice.
just learned that at some point in time I needed to start saying no. And like I messaged him back. I was like, Henry, I really appreciate your long explanation. I know it would have just sufficed and I would have respected it.
Yeah.
But the fact that you said no, but you also supported me and gave me the best reason I've ever heard to say no, you
Bro.
just took my love and respect of you up like 100 notches, like with one email. He could have had an assistant message me that, dude.
Yeah.
But he didn't. Like he took that time, even though it was a no. It was the coolest no that I've ever
I
gotten.
know, right? I was gonna say that's actually pretty cool, man. I mean, just for him to interact, dude, that's pretty dope. I like that.
It was the neatest thing. And then the other coolest thing I got was Anne Rice. When she first started getting really sick, I ran this network with my brother at the time called Twisted Geekdom, and she actually agreed to appear on our show. And I was like, "Oh my god, we got Anne Rice! This is great." We just gotten Christopher Warren, a couple other bigger people. We got her. It's great. So
Dude.
at first, it was her. It was her assistant, which is normal for someone at the time of that caliber. And then she started taking over the emails and just directly messaging me. She didn't call me at one point in time. I mean, it was legitimately her, and I was like, my mind was blown. Never listen. I queried a lot of people, and all the big people almost always said no. It never stops you from reaching out, but
Oh yeah.
I just expected to know the day I sent it, and now I'm talking to her, and all this stuff's going on, and she's like, I got a lot of stuff that I can and can't talk about in public, but you've been so patient because she rescheduled like 7 times because of her health.
Oh, man.
And it came down to she's like, "Listen, I'm not gonna be able to do this. My health is getting a lot worse than in public that I'm saying in public right now." She's like, "But all that information will be out soon. But I'm doing this one really big project, and you've been absolutely so amazing. Even though I can't be there, I want to send you the trailer that no one else has seen in the world, and other than like producers and stuff, obviously, and like crew that would have worked on it. And I want to do a special announcement for the first time ever on your show. And I'm gonna make a video, and I'm gonna send it to you, and you can play it. Would that be okay?" And I'm like, yes,
Dude.
Miss Right. Of course that's okay. Like, I was completely okay with you not being able to do this, and you've spent all this time. Like, the fact that
Oh,
you've rescheduled me 7 times showed me that you wanted to be here. Like,
yeah.
I couldn't believe it. And it was her initial announcement for the interview with the Vampire TV show, like years before it ever came out.
No way,
So
dude.
it was like this all because and it was an example of a star who I thought would say no, who I thought I would only ever talk to the agent or the assistant, and it just became like this really cool thing. And then of course, unfortunately, she passed a couple years after that. But like, it was just that moment that you don't expect people to be really cool like that because of different reasons and how sheltered they are away from other people. But it's like, and of course, for every one of those, I've got 100 bad stories,
Oh yeah.
because
Oh
that's just people. But like you never know where you're gonna find that kindness in bigger people and things like that that are. And at the time, man, I think we had 100 listeners worldwide. That was it. We were nobody, like literally nobody. So like, and she knew it. I never fudge numbers. I never lie about that because it doesn't do me or anyone else any favors to lie about your stuff. It just doesn't.
No, man, not at all, dude.
You can click 2 buttons and find out someone's lying. I'm just saying. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, you see, and that's one of the things because I always tell people, I said I'd rather have 100 people that are going to comment and jump on than a million that crickets, bro. Like, I'm
Right.
not worried about numbers. I mean, when it grows, it's going to be organic. It's going to be people that want to listen to this or want to jump on or want to, collaborate and just, work with something. But for the most part, like, yeah, man, because I mean, I've messaged same thing, dude. I've messaged so many people, and like every once in a while, I'll get something back, and I'm like, dude, cool, man. Like they said
Yeah.
no, but, hey, that's great that they were like, hey, we can or I can't, and that's it. I mean, I know for the most part, a lot of pages are ran by managers. They
Yep.
so every time I message them, I'm like, hey, this is the management company. This is who I am. This is my website. This is my number. This is,
Got to send all the links out.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but they know. And I mean, and for the most part too, because a lot of these conventions, like I'm able to meet the actors there and I'll talk to them. I'm like, for the most part, they allow me to interview them whenever they want to, because I always ask. But
Mhm.
like, I mean, I'll meet their management companies or the managers, and I'm like, hey, man, like I'm local, but I'm reaching out to all these different formats. That's what I do, and then they're like, oh yeah, just I run their page, just message me, and then let me know, and then that they remember. So I'm grateful, dude.
And all cons have press passes, and this is something that most podcasts I'm finding don't know about. I mean, most people into this. Like, so if anyone at home is listening and they don't know this, reach out to whatever con you want to go to as soon as it's announced. Let them know that you have a podcast. It doesn't matter how big or small your podcast is. I'm serious. It really doesn't. Message them, talk to them about why you think you could do something cool with them,
Yeah.
what you're willing to do, and give them all your links. What are they going to say? No. Oh no, they said no. But somebody's going to say yes, and that's going to be the foot in the door you need to do it at another con because you've already done it well for that con and you met your agreement. Your agreement might be I film all the panels and talk to some of your guests, and I make some cool videos and I show them on my shit that 15 people are going to listen to. They're more interested in knowing that you're going to fulfill your obligation than how many people saw what you did, right? So you make that con happy. The next email you send out to the next group of people the next year is, hey, this is who I am. This is what I want to do. And I've previously been to these cons doing it. So now it's the resume all because you just decided to send some emails. And you just build that up, man. And it's like, just know that every con, every sporting event, every concert, everything you could go to and enjoy has a department that's designed for press pass tickets. And they split that up between people that are just getting started and established people just to make good relationships.
Oh yeah. Because even with the Combat Sports podcast, like I mean, I was able to get K-Side for the UFC, for Bellator,
Right.
Combate Global when they were coming through here, man. Like I mean, Strike Force, I was K-Side, dude, and then it never really hit me. There was one time when I was actually covering Bellator, no Strike Force, and it was in Austin, and I'm there and I'm taking pictures and my phone's buzzing. I had it on vibrate, so I'm checking and I look at the text and my buddy's like, "Hey, I see you on TV." And I was like, what the hell? And I look up and the camera's like right there. And I was like, holy crap, dude. Like it freaking it threw a wrench in my gears, man. It got me nervous. After that fight, I had to like go walk around because I was just like, damn, I was on TV, and people don't notice, dude. Like I notice it now when I watch fights. I look at the audience and I look at the cameraman and I'm like, okay, like cool, man. But at that time, yeah, it kind of freak me out, man. But
right. But you're busy though. You're in the moment. You're doing what you need to do. Like, and you've got your brain wired to not intentionally not notice those things while you're working. Like you have your time after where you notice them, and then you freak out because I freak out still every time something happens. I could be a millionaire and it could be a name somewhere. I'm still gonna freak out and get excited because that's just nothing's gonna change how I interact and how I do those things. Like nothing will ever change those things.
No, that's for sure, man. Because even I mean, out of all the people like that I've met, at the fights, I've talked to the promoters. I've been, Boss Rutan was one of them. I met Vandele Silva. I mean, dude, like all these fighters, bro, and they're there, and I'm just like freaking, like, hey, how's it going? Just trying to be cool and casual, and
Yeah.
throughout the night, like I'll be like, hey, man, by the way, can I get a photo? And they're like, oh yeah, and. But I mean, I friend all these people, man. I treat them like people. I talk to them like people, and they give them that respect. And like before I know it, they're like, "Hey, if you want to do a photo," I'm like, "Oh yeah, cool, man." Like, I was telling my buddy because I had a photographer friend that I met at one of the fights here, and in Seattle. And at that time, like he was like, hey, Maurice Smith. I don't know if you know. He was like the former UFC.
Familiar with the name, yeah.
So he was like, hey, we're gonna be in Austin. Randy Couture. His son's fighting for Strikeforce. You want to go? And I'm like, yeah, dude, hell yeah, dude. So the week of, he's like, hey, I'll call you when we're out there. I said, okay. Friday for the weigh-ins, I drove out there, met up with him, Maurice Smith, and Randy Couture's there. And they're all eating, sitting down. I'm like, hey, how's it going, guys? And they're like, hey, and so we're there talking, and I'm just like, damn, dude, like freaking out, because I'm like, dude, I'm hanging out with these dudes. And the bill comes, the waitress is like, hey, who's gonna pay the bill? And I was like, hey, I'll get it. And they were like, oh, okay, yeah. So I was everybody's best friend after that, right?
Oh yeah.
But, at the fights, I'm there, and I'm cage side, and I see Randy Couture, and I'm like, hey, man, how's it going? And he's like, oh, hey, what's going on, man? And my friends that were like by the fans, they were like, hey, dude, can we take a photo? And I was like, oh man. And I'm like, hey, Randy, can you take a photo with some of my friends? But oh yeah, real quick, So he goes out there, and they were like, dude, they were like mind blown. But I was like, the least he could do, right? Bottom lunch, bro. Come on.
Yeah, like come on. That is amazing, man. And that's again all part of you just being a cool guy. Just being a nice guy that likes to make cool shit.
Dude, humble, bro. Like, I mean, this guy, like, no bone, like, and nothing. I mean, he was just like, human being, man. So I was just like, yeah, dude. Like, I just treated him like, I just gave him that respect. But yeah, man. I mean, I've met so many cool people like that, dude. I'm like, those are memories. I mean, I'm always gonna take them with me. I got all my media passes that I'll get autographs, and I kept. And I'm just like, yeah, it's been so many, bro.
I know, and it's the coolest part about it. It's like and all these different fields I've been in, I've made some relationships and people that will remember me forever. Like even like bigger name people that I'm not gonna name drop, but like there's other people out there that definitely know who I am, and if I'm in a con, they'll pull me aside and we'll talk for a while. Like people that I'm surprised that they remember me most of the time, because if anyone ever remembers me, I get excited automatically because I'm like, oh shit, I did something they remember. Yes. So I'm like a child when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Like I don't go to their table and be like, oh, remember me? No, I just walk up and talk to them. If they do, they do. If not, they don't.
Yeah.
And then maybe cool things happen and maybe they don't, but that doesn't take away from my experience and my passion and my love, to do what I get to do.
No,
It just makes it extra, extra awesome on those days.
No, you see, and that's always good, man. Because for the most part, I mean, when it comes to the name, people always remember the podcast. So when I'm out there and they're like, "Oh, coming soon," so I'm like, "I'll take it." They remember that stuff, man.
Yeah.
But I mean, conversations. I mean, I always welcome them. True, man. I mean, I got stories galore, bro. And I definitely want to bring you back on here, man. Because of course, I mean, there's a lot I want to talk about. There's a lot I want to pick your brain on, of course, as well, dude. And we'll talk on camera or off, but. And I appreciate you, man. Thank you for jumping on this, bro.
Dude, I want to say this. If you guys are thinking about like getting a hold of him to be a guest, let me just explain this. Like we've talked like a little bit here and there, but not a lot until today. And like I'm coming out of this today feeling so comfortable and feeling like almost like we're feeling like we already know each other. Like from the moment I got on and you were just, hey man, how's it going? How's your day? Like from then even till now, I feel like we've known each other forever. And it was one of the most comfortable interviews and like conversations outside of my own network that I've ever had with anyone. So if y'all are thinking about it, bite the bullet, contact him. It's been absolutely just such a cool experience, man.
No, I appreciate that, man, for sure, dude. And of course, I mean, I definitely want to jump on y'all's platform, man. So whenever y'all got something going on, keep me posted. Love to jump on there and just talk it up, man. But definitely, appreciate you jumping on this, bro. Thank you very much.
Definitely, we'll definitely be bringing you on. I'm gonna have a couple different show options for you, like to start, into some stuff. But definitely, man.
So, man, appreciate that, man. Everybody out there, of course, once again, this is Dr. Raz T. Slasher's sPidA Coming Soon podcast. Till next time, follow up.